They say family is everything, but what if the people who raised you were lying the whole time? My name's Liam. I'm 17. I live in Austin, Texas. And 2 years ago, my little brother disappeared. The cops were called, flyers went up, people lit candles in front of our house. Strangers sent us money through a charity my parents set up. We were all over the news, but here's the part no one knew. My parents made the whole thing up. They faked his kidnapping, staged the whole thing, all to rake in tens of thousands in donations from people who genuinely cared. And me? I didn't know. I was grieving. I thought he was gone forever. And every time I asked my parents for updates, they'd change the subject, tell me to move on. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. I kept every photo, every text. I rewatched every silly little video of him building Lego Star Wars sets on our old iPad. I lit a candle every Wednesday. I prayed on his birthday. And I held on to this box, this stupid wrapped Lego set I bought him with my own savings the week he vanished. For 2 years, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I didn't watch him close enough. Maybe if I'd walked him home that day, maybe none of this would have happened. But the truth was darker than I could have imagined. The truth was, he wasn't gone. Not to strangers. Not to some unknown danger. He was closer than I ever realized. Hidden, on purpose. And what I uncovered? It blew everything up. If you're someone who believes in justice, in truth, stick around. Because what started as a fake disappearance turned into one of the wildest, darkest betrayals a kid can face. I promise you've never heard a story like this. And if you think you know what family looks like, think again. Wednesdays used to be our thing. Before everything blew up, every Wednesday after school, Max and I would bike to this little taco truck near Zilker Park. We'd get 2 al pastor, 1 soda, split it. No phones, just brothers. We talked about Pokemon, his math tests, why he thought ketchup was a smoothie. You know, kid stuff. After he disappeared, I kept going, every damn Wednesday. Same truck, same seat, same 2 tacos. One of them would just sit there, untouched, while I stared at the street, hoping I'd see his crooked little helmet ride up again. That stupid hope? It broke me slowly, 1 taco at a time. And at home? Things weren't normal. My parents acted like grief was an inconvenience, like sadness didn't match the vibe they were trying to sell online. They stopped talking about Max altogether. No updates, no posters, not even his name at dinner. They said, "The past needs to stay in the past, Liam." Like my brother was just a phase, a failed campaign they needed to bury. But me, I kept everything. His room stayed untouched, except when they turned it into some donation fulfillment center. Boxes of merch, stacks of envelopes, printouts of GoFundMe reports. I used to sneak in and sit there. I'd talk to him like he was just hiding under the bed. I think part of me knew. Not everything, but something was off. Why was there no new police update? Why did my parents delete questions from their Facebook page? Why did they whisper every time I walked in the room? But grief makes you believe things you shouldn't. And love? Love makes you ignore every red flag waving in your face. Still, I kept my routine. Every Wednesday, every birthday. I never missed a beat. Not because I thought he'd come back on his own, but because I needed him to know if he was out there, if he was scared, if he was hurting, I never stopped looking. Never stopped loving him. And then, 2 years later, I got a voicemail that changed everything. It started like any ordinary Monday. I was curled up in bed, hoodie pulled tight, watching some Reddit mystery deep dive on YouTube, just zoning out from the chaos in my head. Then, a new voicemail popped up on my phone. No caller ID, no transcription, just a blank audio file sitting there, waiting to ruin my entire sense of reality. I stared at it for a second, thumb hovering over delete. I get scam calls all the time. Fake IRS, fake car insurance, even one claiming my dog's extended warranty had expired. But this one, it felt different. I tapped play, crackling, a low hiss, then, "Liam, Walnut Street, please." I sat bolt upright, my heart slamming into my chest. That voice, it was soft, broken, almost drowned out by static, but it was unmistakable. It was Max, my brother, the same kid who used to yell, "Last slice is mine" during pizza nights. The same voice I hadn't heard in almost 2 years. I played it again and again. I cranked up the volume, held the phone to my ear like it was sacred. There was no doubt. It was him, saying my name and a street, Walnut Street. I tore through my room like a maniac, flipping drawers, tossing boxes. I found the old treasure map Max and I made as kids, our fake pirate land. One of the spots? Walnut Street. It wasn't just a made-up name. It was real. A back road near Abilene, where our family owned a long-abandoned cabin. The one my parents never let me visit again after Max went missing. My hands were shaking. I knew I had to go. I couldn't tell anyone. Not after everything. I took my mom's backup credit card, booked an Uber to Abilene, and packed the essentials: phone, charger, hoodie, energy bars, and a tiny flashlight. My palms were sweaty, but my mind was crystal clear. That voicemail wasn't a mistake. It was a lifeline. And if my brother had survived 2 years in the shadows, if he found a way to whisper that clue, I owed it to him to follow it. All the way to Walnut Street. The drive to Abilene was 5 hours of mental warfare. I watched the sun melt into the horizon while Spotify kept replaying sad indie tracks, like the universe was mocking me. My driver didn't say a word, but I could feel his eyes checking the rear view, like he knew I wasn't just a kid running away. I was heading towards something dark. We turned off the main road onto a stretch of cracked asphalt, barely wide enough for one car. No lights, just shadows stretching through the mesquites. And then, there it was, the cabin. Old wood panels peeling, roof sagging slightly but still standing, still hiding something. I told the driver to wait. He didn't ask questions. I crept through the grass, my sneakers crunching dead twigs, and got low behind the porch railing. That's when I saw movement through the dusty window. My heart froze. It was my dad. I hadn't seen him in weeks. Ever since the news had cooled down, he'd been working late all the time. But here he was, inside the cabin, kneeling beside a rug in the middle of the floor. Then slowly, he pulled it back, revealing a metal trapdoor. I pressed record on my phone. He opened the door and lowered a plastic container, food and water, into the space below. And then, a hand reached up to grab it. Not just any hand. That hand had a burn scar on the wrist, shaped like a crescent moon. Max. I almost dropped my phone. My body locked up, knees weak. The world blurred for a second. This wasn't a theory anymore. This was real. And it was worse than I imagined. They didn't just hide Max. They caged him. I backed away slowly, holding back the urge to scream. I couldn't risk blowing this moment. I had proof now. Video, location, my dad in the act. This cabin wasn't just an old family spot. It was a prison. And I was about to break him out. I couldn't breathe. My pulse was pounding so loud I thought my dad could hear it echoing through the trees. I crouched behind a broken fence post just 20 feet from the cabin, clutching my phone like it was the only weapon I had. The video was still recording. Grainy, shaky, but you could see the trapdoor, my dad, and the hand. That scar, that crescent-shaped burn from a hot glue gun accident 2 summers ago. Max. There was no mistaking it. My little brother, who the world believed was abducted by strangers, was right here, beneath our own family's property, alive and imprisoned. I fought the urge to run straight in. I needed to be smart. If I blew this, if Dad saw me now, he could move Max again, or worse. So I waited. My dad stood up, looked around cautiously, then shut the trap door and dragged the rug back over it. He didn't lock it. He just left. The screen door creaked behind him, and I held my breath as he disappeared down the dirt path toward the shed. That was my opening. I sprinted to the cabin like my feet weren't touching the ground. I knew that floorboard pattern from childhood visits. Every squeak, every soft spot. I flipped back the rug, heart hammering. The trapdoor was real. cold metal, rust around the hinges. I pulled. It opened with a groan so loud I thought it would summon the devil. And then, his eyes. Max. His face was pale, thinner than I remembered, but his eyes were the same. Recognition hit him like a wave, and he whispered, "Liam?" I nodded. Couldn't even talk. My throat closed up. He reached up. I grabbed his hand, shaking, cold, but strong. I had him. I had my brother back. That 1 second erased 2 years of pain. But it also cemented what I had to do next. We weren't waiting. We were getting out. Now. I fumbled for the spare key like my life depended on it. Because it did. Not just mine. Max's too. When we were kids, Dad used to hide the keys under a fake rock by the propane tank. Some paranoid habit from his prepper days. I prayed he hadn't changed that detail. My fingers brushed cold plastic. Bingo. Key in hand, I rushed back to the trapdoor, my heartbeat matching every crunch of gravel underfoot. Max was still half in shock, barely able to sit up. I wrapped one arm under his shoulder and whispered, "We're leaving. Right now." He didn't argue, just nodded and blinked away tears like he couldn't believe this was real. I opened the cabin door slowly, praying it didn't creak. We moved like shadows, slipping through rooms that still smelled like childhood, burnt popcorn, dusty furniture, and the cologne Dad used to wear when he wasn't a monster. Max stumbled once, but I caught him. He was lighter than I remembered. Like half of him had been left in that dark space under the floor. The door closed behind us with a soft click. Outside, the wind hit our faces like freedom. Max squinted up at the stars, like they were new to him. I guess after 2 years in darkness, they kinda were. We didn't speak. We didn't have to. Every step away from that cabin felt like rewriting history, like flipping the script on everything they told us love was supposed to be. I wanted to cry, scream, fall to my knees, but there wasn't time. Max squeezed my hand once, tight, grateful, scared, alive. We didn't know where we were going yet, but we knew what we were running from. And for the first time in 2 years, I wasn't just a grieving brother. I was a rescuer. I was taking back what they tried to bury. The past wasn't locked away anymore. We'd opened it. And now, we had to outrun it. Branches cracked behind us. Not twigs snapping in the wind, but wait. Intent. Someone was out there. Max squeezed my arm, eyes wide. "Dad," he mouthed. No sound. Just that one word was enough to paralyze every cell in my body. We ducked behind a mesquite bush, barely breathing. I killed the flashlight on my phone and pressed my back to the dirt. The night was thick, humid. Texas heat didn't care it was midnight. Then we saw it. His silhouette. Dad's old hunting flashlight swung side to side, its beam slicing through the darkness like a searchlight in a prison yard. Max was trembling next to me, and I could feel his ribs with every breath. I pulled him closer, trying to make us both smaller, invisible. The beam got closer. Too close. It passed over our spot once, then stopped. The light hovered for what felt like an eternity. My stomach churned. Sweat slid down my neck. I thought maybe he could hear my heartbeat. Then, it moved on. He kept walking, muttering something we couldn't make out. We stayed frozen, not daring to breathe until the light was a memory. Max exhaled first. "That was close," he whispered. "No," I replied, my voice shaky but sure. "That was too close." We waited 5 more minutes, just to be safe. Then we got up and moved again. Quiet, fast, zigzagging through trees like we were being hunted. Because we were. No phone signal, no GPS, no plan. Just instinct and trauma guiding our feet. I looked down at Max, still wearing the same sneakers he went missing in. The sole of one was flapping loose, his ankle bleeding from the run. But he didn't complain, not once. We just kept moving. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just an escape. This was war. Not with guns or fists, but with truth. With the proof. With the unshakable bond between 2 brothers who'd survived what no one should. And as the flashlight faded behind us, so did the last piece of fear. Because now, We had each other, and that was enough to keep going. We kept walking, left at the broken fence, past the dry creek bed, through a thicket of cedar that scratched our arms raw. My legs ached, but adrenaline numbed everything. We just needed to put enough distance between us and that cabin. But something felt off. Max slowed. "Wait," he whispered. He turned in a slow circle, scanning the trees. That's Mom's old swing." I stopped in my tracks. A rope swing hung from a pecan tree, swaying gently like it had been waiting for us. "No way," I muttered. We'd made a full circle. We were back. Panic shot through me like an electric jolt. The flashlight, the footsteps, we were supposed to be escaping, and we ended up right where we started. Max's breathing quickened. "We're not gonna make it." I grabbed his shoulders, steadied him. "Yes, we will. We just have to think smarter, not faster." I scanned the dark horizon, searching for anything. A sign, a road, a porch light. Nothing but Texas brush and regret. Then it hit me. The North Star. Dad used to make us find it on camping trips. "Max, look up," I said, pointing. "Polaris. If that's north, the highway has to be west. That means we were looping in panic." He followed my gaze, and for the first time, a flicker of hope crossed his face. We recalibrated. No more zigzagging, just a straight line west, toward the sound of distant cars, if we were lucky. Max tightened the shoelace on his busted sneaker with a stick. It wasn't much, but it showed me something. He hadn't given up, and neither could I. As we walked again, slower, more deliberate, I thought about everything that brought us here. The lies, the years, the betrayal, but also the strength. The bond that didn't break, even in silence, even in chains. We didn't know what was coming next, if we'd make it, if anyone would believe us. But we did know one thing. We weren't alone anymore. And as long as we had each other, we'd find our way. Maybe not today, but soon, together. We finally stumbled onto a gas station outside Sweetwater. Half lit, barely standing, but it was civilization. My hoodie was soaked in sweat, and Max looked like he hadn't seen daylight in months. We walked in like ghosts. The cashier stared. I didn't care. I just needed a phone, a plan, something. Then I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Liam?" I turned. It was Mr. Alvarez, my 10th grade history teacher. He looked older, like time had pulled his smile lines tighter. He still had that coffee-stained Texas A&M hoodie. "Mr. Alvarez?" My voice cracked. He blinked. "What the hell happened to you?" Without thinking, I pulled out my phone, hands shaking, and showed him the video. The one of my dad feeding Max through the trapdoor. He watched it. Slowly, carefully. Then his face changed, like something broke inside him. "Get in my truck," he said quietly. "Now." We didn't ask questions. The moment we sat down, the heat kicked in and Max finally exhaled. It was the first time he looked remotely human in hours. Mr. Alvarez didn't speak for a full mile. Then, "I always knew something was wrong. After your brother went missing, your parents, they didn't act right. They threw a barbecue 3 days later, told everyone the donations were flowing in. It didn't sit right." He was clenching the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. I glanced at Max. He was staring at the road, eyes glassy. I whispered, "Can you help us?" He nodded. "I'm not a lawyer, but my sister is. Family law, Fort Worth. If anyone can help, it's her." That's when I felt it for the first time. Not just hope, but safety. A sliver of it. We weren't just two lost kids anymore. We had an adult who believed us. One with connections, a conscience, and a truck that still ran. Mr. Alvarez hit the gas. Behind us, the gas station faded into the Texas night. Ahead? Maybe a future. And for the first time since Max disappeared, it didn't feel impossible. By the time we reached Fort Worth, the sky was bleeding orange. Mr. Alvarez hadn't said much after Sweetwater, but the moment we pulled up to the brick house with wind chimes and security cameras, he turned to us and said, She's tough, but she's the reason kids like you get second chances. Her name was Elena Alvarez, his older sister. Family attorney. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She opened the door, looked us over once, and said, "You're safe now. Come in." Her house smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee. Max clung to me like a shadow. Elena didn't waste time. She led us straight to her office. No small talk, no sugarcoating. "Liam, tell me what happened. Every detail." I did. I told her about the voice memo, the cabin, the trapdoor, about the hand with the birthmark. I showed her the video. She didn't flinch, just watched, paused, rewound. When it ended, she stood, grabbed a legal pad, and started writing. "Okay, here's what we're doing. I'm filing for emergency custody through CPS. You'll both be placed under protective care, temporarily with me. We'll also request a restraining order against your parents. The video is solid. I'm looping in a judge I trust by 6 p.m. She moved like a storm. Paperwork, phone calls, legal lingo flying. Max just sat on the couch, hugging a blanket like it was life itself. I whispered, "Can this really work?" She looked at me, eyes blazing. "It already is." And for the first time since that voicemail, I breathed. An adult didn't just believe me. They acted. They fought. Mr. Alvarez brought us pizza. Max didn't touch his, but he didn't cry either. Later that night, while Elena was still on the phone with the judge, Max looked at me and whispered, "I thought no one would ever find me." I squeezed his hand. I didn't stop looking. Outside, sirens echoed far off in the night. Inside, 2 boys, 1 teacher and a lawyer with a spine of steel, started rewriting a story that was never meant to be silent. It was barely 9 a.m. the next morning when the knock came. Loud, impatient, the kind that makes your stomach drop before your feet even hit the floor. Elena glanced at the security monitor and muttered, "They didn't waste time." My parents were outside. My mom clutched a stack of papers, probably fake custody forms. My dad stood behind her, eyes wild, fists clenched. The same hands that once packed school lunches, now shaking with rage. Elena stepped out onto the porch, phone in one hand, calm like she'd rehearsed this 1,000 times. "Step back," she said. "This is private property. You're violating a temporary protection order." My mom scoffed. "You're kidnapping our children." I stood behind the curtain, barely breathing. Max buried his head in my hoodie. Elena's voice never cracked. "You chained your child in a basement. You faked a kidnapping for cash. There's footage. CPS has it. So does the DA." My dad lunged forward, but stopped cold when he saw the red light on the security cam. "You think you're gonna get away with this?" he hissed. Elena smirked. "You already didn't." That's when we heard it. Sirens. My mom's eyes darted. My dad muttered something, grabbed her arm. They bolted. I watched from the window as they peeled out of the driveway, tires screeching. For a second, I felt like a movie character. But this wasn't a script. This was real. My monsters had faces, voices, last names. Elena locked the door behind her and turned to us. "They're running, but they won't get far." Her words weren't comforting, but they were true. Max looked at me. "Do you think they'll catch them?" I nodded, even though my voice felt frozen. "Yeah, this time we're not alone." And that moment, standing in a stranger's home that suddenly felt safer than our own, we realized something terrifying and beautiful. Our story was no longer theirs to control. It was ours. The safe house smelled like lavender and disinfectant, comfort layered over trauma. It was tucked behind an old church in Denton, quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat. A woman named Dana from Child Protective Services sat with a notepad and soft eyes. She didn't rush us, just waited. Max was curled up in a fleece blanket. His fingers trembled, but his voice? His voice carried years of silence. "They said it was to protect me. From the world," he began. But it felt like punishment. Dana didn't interrupt, just nodded. He told her everything. The lies, the food rationing, the cold winters with no heat. How our dad would stomp above the floorboards to remind him who was in charge. How Mom played music upstairs to drown out his cries. I sat beside him, fists clenched but trying to stay still. It wasn't my turn to fall apart. Not yet. Max described the metal chain, the bucket, the books they gave him, Bible verses, survival manuals, and ironically, one children's book about kindness. Dana finally asked, "Did you ever try to escape?" Max looked at me. I stopped believing I could. That line broke something inside me. She asked one more question. "Do you know why your brother came?" Max whispered, "Because he never stopped looking." I looked away, tears creeping up. I didn't want him to see me cry. Not now. Not when he'd already seen so much worse. Dana closed her notebook gently. "You're both incredibly brave, and incredibly lucky to have each other." She stepped out to make a call, probably to the district attorney, maybe to the media. But in that moment, it didn't matter. Max and I weren't just witnesses anymore. We were evidence. Our truth was finally out, and the system, flawed as it is, was finally listening. He leaned his head on my shoulder. "Can we go somewhere warm?" I nodded. "Soon, just not back." And in that tiny, quiet room with lavender walls and institutional lighting, hope didn't knock. It whispered. We weren't broken. We were survivors. 2 days later, the Amber Alert was reactivated. Except this time, the faces on the poster weren't mine or Max's. It was our parents. A multi-county manhunt swept across Texas, and by 7:42 a.m., they were caught at a rest stop just past Texarkana. They were trying to cross into Arkansas with fake IDs, cash stuffed in a diaper bag, and a folder labeled Plan B. The news spread like wildfire. Every local station ran it. Couple accused of faking child's disappearance, arrested at state line. The anchors called it shocking, unthinkable, a betrayal that shook the community. But for us, it was Tuesday. The courtroom was packed. Media, activists, CPS workers, some even cried. Max and I sat beside Aunt Jenna, fingers laced, hearts pounding. I wore a borrowed blazer. Max had on a hoodie that still smelled like the safe house. The prosecution didn't need much. We had footage, testimony, receipts from donation scams, but it was Max's voice that sealed it. When he took the stand, everything changed. He didn't scream, he didn't cry. He looked straight at our mom and said, "You told me the world was dangerous, but the only people I needed protection from were you." Dead silence. Even the judge looked like he forgot to blink. Then came the defense. Excuses about trauma, finances, the pressure of parenting. But the courtroom wasn't buying it. Especially not Judge Ramirez, a former foster youth herself. Her verdict? Guilty on all counts. Kidnapping, child abuse, fraud, obstruction of justice. Her words still echo in my mind. This court doesn't just sentence criminals, it restores truth, and today these children have earned that truth back. Max squeezed my hand so tight I felt his pulse through my bones. They got 35 years each, no parole for at least 20. Their lawyer said they might appeal. Good luck with that. Outside, reporters swarmed. Microphones flew at us like spears. But I said one thing and walked away. My brother's life is not a headline. It's a miracle. That night, Aunt Jenna baked cookies. Max played old Mario games until he laughed so hard he fell off the beanbag. Justice didn't fix everything, but it was a damn good start. And for the first time in 2 years, we slept without listening for footsteps above. They say silence is golden, but for me, silence was power. In the chaos of the past year, press coverage, courtrooms, the sound of cell doors clanging shut, I never raised my voice. Not once. I didn't need to. Because the truth has a sound of its own. It hums quietly, like the Austin skyline at night. And when it finally speaks, it shakes the ground harder than any scream ever could. I've watched people who thought they had control unravel the moment their lies couldn't keep up with the evidence. Carl, Hoffman, even my own parents. They underestimated the value of silence. They mistook it for submission. But silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon. When most people don't know how to wield, I've learned that being loud doesn't make you heard, and being soft doesn't mean you're not strong. When I stood in that courtroom, watching the verdicts being read, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even bitter. I just felt done. Not with the fight, but with the need to prove anything. I'd already won the moment I walked away with my brother by my side. People ask me now if I'd ever speak publicly, write a book, go on shows. Maybe someday. But for now, my peace is private. My victories are quiet. And honestly, that's enough. Because in this world, especially for folks like us, young, underestimated, sometimes alone, strength doesn't always look like fists or fury. Sometimes it looks like showing up. Sometimes it looks like staying when it's easier to run. And sometimes it looks like whispering the truth so steadily, the world can't help but listen. So if you're out there, feeling like you have no voice, no power, remember this. Silence, when rooted in truth, is louder than any lie ever told. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and let me know in the comments. What's your definition of real strength? There's a difference between building properties and building people. 2 years ago, this place was just concrete, drywall, and rent notices. Now, it's a community. It's kids playing soccer in the courtyard. It's porch lights staying on just a little longer. It's neighbors who actually know each other's names. Max had his first real birthday party last weekend. Lightsabers, pizza, cake with way too much frosting, and laughter. So much laughter. It echoed through the whole complex like a song we'd been waiting too long to hear. That's the thing about healing. It doesn't come from lawsuits or headlines. It comes from showing up for each other. From planting something where pain used to live and watching it grow. We raised the rent slightly, yeah. But every cent went into better locks, cleaner halls, safer spaces. The tenants? They didn't complain. They thanked us. Because in the end, profit fades. But community, that's legacy. And if you take anything from this story, let it be this. The strongest foundation isn't steel or stone, it's respect.